Hey everyone, I think it's going to be a light day today because of the holiday, but we'll wait a few more minutes. All right, we can get moving. I don't think there's going to be a lot of people showing up today because of the day. All right, if everyone can sign in this document. And then we're gonna probably talk about SBOM everywhere. Does anyone have any tooling topics other than SBOM everywhere? I will assume.
Hey, Josh, this is Justin from SLSA. It probably goes without saying, but we will not be meeting. The SLSA S-Bomb tooling group will not be meeting this week because of the holiday. So.
That is fair, yes. You gotta love these holiday weeks. I'm kind of excited for today because we're gonna work on the document, and well, at least that's my plan, unless someone has a better idea. But cool. And then cripes, we got what, like only one, I think one more of these maybe before Christmas time. The 6th. Oh, and the 20th. Okay. All right, that works. Anyway, all right, so where's my tab? Everyone sign in, and then so I put an agenda together for SBOM everywhere. I'm just going to share my screen, which I think will make life easier for everybody. I put an agenda together for SBOM everywhere. There's the please introduce yourself in the chat, which I'm going to unshare to go copy my introduction, which is all right. Oh, I'm struggling to copy and paste today. There we go. All right, here's my intro. If everyone could do something similar, that would be appreciated. It saves us the trouble of asking new people to embarrassingly talk for an unknown amount of time. All right, intros. I don't have a topic for today. Let me share my screen again, sorry. I don't have a specific topic for today, which is why I put in this document, make it like a working session. If anyone has something they would like to bring up, they are more than welcome to do so. And I'll give you a few seconds. And if not, I'll explain what I would like us to do. All right, I assume not. So this document is something Brandon Lum is, I guess, sort of the owner of. I don't think Brandon's here right now, but so that's fine. So that document is where we took the old definition of SBOM everywhere. It was Stream 9 back in the day. I don't know. David, are we still calling it Stream 9, or does that have a different name? Do you know?
I mean, feel free to keep calling it Stream 9.
Okay.
That's what it is
All
in
right.
that doc. But you know what? I think just calling it SBOM everywhere is fine, because a lot of people aren't going to remember by number.
That's fair. That's fair. All right, SBOM everywhere. The mobilization plan link is here. So anyway, we're to define our scope and mission and kind of approach and some of this. And after talking with a number of people over the last couple of months about everything going on, and this even it came up in a governing board meeting at one point, is like, it is very hard to get this group of people to do a lot of work. We're very busy, and I think expecting us to like write a lot of documentation or work on tools or whatever isn't necessarily the best use of time. And additionally, I think there's a lot of other work happening in this space that's why would we duplicate that? I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I think this is like Justin is here, Justin Murphy's here from SLSA. Like SLSA has a ton of working groups doing a lot of really good work in this space. And so I think a direction we would like to take this group is less trying to build content and more giving people an easy way to connect the dots. Because I think one of the challenges we have today in the SBOM world is just knowing what's going on. And so what I would like us to do is go through this document and figure out how we can, I guess, restructure it to focus more on enabling others versus necessarily doing the work. And the inception of that was this group funding the Python SPDX library. And what happened there was the SPDX Python library had fallen into disrepair. And Kate Stewart, who I don't think is on this meeting, if you are Kate, I see her. Hi, Kate. Kate basically pointed out like this library needs help. And she had a contractor like ready to go. All they needed was a check and they could start fixing this. And that's what we did. And it was very successful. And like we're doing what we need to do. And I think that's an example of where I think this group as part of the OpenSSF could have the most compelling impact, is kind of funding some of these initiatives and helping them get the right attention versus necessarily trying to do it. Because I think it's no secret, right, if we came to this group and said, hey, everyone, we're going to go fix the Python SPDX library, it would look exactly today the way it did like 3 months ago, because no one would do it. And I get that, because some of this work is not exciting and it is not interesting, but it's very, very important. It has to be done. It's like the comparison I like to use when I talk to people: someone makes plumbing fittings. Like there is a designer making plumbing fittings. That sounds very boring to most of us, but it is literally the foundation of modern society. If we didn't have those people, it wouldn't work. And sometimes you just need someone to, maybe get paid to do a thing that no one else wants to do, because we need it. But I want to just jump in. I'm gonna probably talk too much, so don't worry about putting anything in the chat, or you can raise your hand or just interrupt.
Yeah, Josh, if I may, I basically my videos I keep coming in without my video on. Yeah, so I basically am totally agreeing with you. I think what we need to do is, as a group, kind of come up with what are the next steps that need doing, estimate, what kind of effort that'll take, and then, and ideally who's going to do that, and then bringing it up to the TAC and governing board. Josh, I know you already understand this well, but for those of you who don't, in the end, the governing board decides where funding goes, but the first thing they're going to do always is ask the TAC, okay, what do you think? So they want the working groups to come up with proposals, TAC to review, governing board to actually decide yay, nay. So, for example, I would love to see better generators, basically, embedded in various tools, so that it's as much as possible. It's as easy as possible to generate. And then once we have more SBOMs generated, tools to process it on the other end, being fully aware there's a chicken and egg problem. Until there's a lot of SBOMs, not many people are going to be interested in processing SBOMs. And if nobody processes SBOMs, nobody's want to generate any. I mean, this is the situation we're in right now. So
Yeah.
we need to. So I'm agreeing with the unstick, and I'm trying to drill one level down, which is I think we need to work on figuring out what specifically needs funding to unstick our chicken and egg challenge today.
100%. Ivana, do you have something to share?
Yeah, because you mentioned bringing something into one place, and I created a few weeks ago this documentation I'm putting in the chat called SBOM Know-how, and tried to summarize maybe almost all tools that I could find, distinguish them on generation, consumption, etc., with few details that would help people prevent them doing their own research, with some summary about all and other related data like specifications, advisories, and etc. And I think it might be useful. And I try to do it in a way that it doesn't need that much support by copying data, but it's mainly linking to tools and other spaces so that it doesn't need much support. Yeah, it's a rather short summary, so it's easy to support over time. And there are things that are missing yet. For example, I totally missed adding parsers. And when you mentioned now, I wrote a note to add existing parsers. So this is something that I can do another page on the tools for. And I'm sharing this just to share that there is something done in that area, and I hope it can be useful. Yeah.
I love this. So
Yeah.
here's our grand plan in this space, I guess, is I'm gonna show the landscape again. Everyone's probably sick of me showing this who's been here, but one of the proposals Kate and I started working on, I actually haven't touched it in like 2 weeks, but the CNCF has this thing they call the landscape, which is where they like kind of categorize all this stuff. And so you can imagine taking a list similar to yours and building one of these for SBOMs. That's something we want to do, but we actually need money to do it, because that's why we're writing a proposal, because basically we need to take this from the CNCF, un-CNCFify it, turn it into something for SBOM everywhere. The OpenSSF actually has their own landscape, but we are not using that on purpose, and everyone involved in that understands why. But basically do something just like your list, but in a format like this, and then everything is driven on the back end in one gargantuan YAML file, which is another topic. But and ideally, then we can also work with groups like SLSA and SPDX and CycloneDX and whoever to incorporate all of their working groups, all of their tooling, all of their formats, all of their everything, because there's so much going on in this space. And I'm sure writing this, you learned tons of stuff you had no idea about, and there's tons even more that you may never find. It's so wild what's going on, but this is great. I'm taking note of this.
Yeah, I'd like to also add some to categorize it so that it's easier to search. It's the initial version, but I'd like to add some search options. For example, you look for tools that generate specific format or etc. that are build time or from source and so on. So it's on the list to add something like that. And yeah, I hope this would also help to export some landscape. Currently,
no
it's
doubt.
not that smart of taking everything. It's manually done by research, and it needs follow-up research, and especially the summary. It contains some things that you learn when you try out the tools, because not everything is that well documented. But yeah, I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, this is great. Someone just asked, how do they help update this?
There is a GitHub link,
Oh,
and it's
good.
currently in my personal account for just to share it. And I would be happy to migrate to another account or to give it to the OpenSSF account or to as a part of Facebook everywhere. It's there just to show it.
I mean, I'd be interested if we incorporate into this working group. I think we need to give you profusive credit for your hard work.
Yeah, 100%. Yep. That's cool. Good.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm doing the quick look, and it's quick and short, and that's not a complaint.
Yeah. This is really cool.
Improvements via GitHub is, I think, is definitely the easy way to go there. Excellent.
It's intentionally short because people will never read a huge amount of documentation. That's why it contains just one,
Yep.
2, 3 sentences for everything, so that you can just observe fast. So
Right.
it's intentional.
Yep. No, as I said, that's not a complaint.
Well,
I agree.
until you start getting pull requests, and then the document gets enormous.
Well, you know what? After a certain point, what you can do is say, "Oh yeah, absolutely. Here's add the link and link off to more info."
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Good.
Yeah, and well, but indeed, what that hints at is, for example, this list of tooling. I would very much like to see I want to improve, at least one generator. What generators should we be improving and how, and that sort of stuff. We don't need to make that decision today, but that's where I would very much like to go, because in order to remove this chicken and egg problem, we're going to have to get enough S-bombs into people's hands, which means we need to make generation super easy.
Yep, I agree. And that, oh man, we both know what that's going to be like, David. Like,
It's going to be a challenge. It's going to be easier if we can get integrated into tools by default.
yeah,
And I get that was in the mobilization plan, but I think that there's been, again, it's a chicken and egg problem.
Yep.
A lot of these tools don't want to integrate all this extra excess functionality. Why would we want to do that? Yada, yada. Maybe because,
or
that's not
excess
commonly done.
dependencies.
Or excess dependencies, but just in general, I don't want to add a whole bunch of stuff to what I perceive is not in my scope.
Yep. That's anyway, not today. That'll come. And that's good, because when we have those problems, it means we're being successful. So I'm comfortable with that. All right, so I'm going to repaste this document for anyone who might have joined after the last paste. I wish Zoom kept the chat log for everybody. That would be quite handy. But anyway, so today what I want to do in the time we have left, and we don't have to use all our time, we'll use what we want, is to kind of go through this and annotate this document a little bit to refocus the group in the direction of not necessarily doing the work, but empowering others to do the work. And by empowering, I'm mostly talking about money. And then we'll use the gravitas and checkbook of the OpenSSF to help bring SBOM everywhere. So
Quick question. Can I give a quick readout?
quick readout.
On the definitions? There's work going on at SLSA, and the document's getting close to finalized, so I just want to make sure people know about it. And can
Please.
in, please.
Can you share your screen, Kate?
Yeah, I'm bringing it up right now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I didn't realize it was almost done. That's very exciting.
Yeah, no, it's the SBOM types. There's been blog back and forth discussion in that spread in the in those slides initially, and now it's moved over to a Google Doc.
Yes,
so
great.
So here, just a second. Putting the link in the chat, and I'm about to screen share too, so you can see it. But would like to make sure that we keep both groups nicely lined up, and that we end up with a set of definitions, because this will be useful for categorization eventually too. Okay, and here. So This document will be published under CISA's auspices, as we had talked about in the past, but obviously this group has had a lot of input. We seem to have come up with pretty much 6 basic types of SBOMs at this point now. And we have definitions as well as roughly a description of the type of data that's going in. We found that useful for clarifying what it's about. The other thing the other work that happened in that group and that some of the people here participated in as well is discussion of what the benefit and limitations of each of these types of SBOMs are. To a large extent, people have been focusing mostly on the build and the source up till now. And the analyze, I'd say, is the third one, where you're given a black box and you're trying to figure out what you can about it. However, the need for the deployed and the runtime have been highlighted as a big gap in the industry. And there's various partial solutions out there. So this is a starting point, but all this is trying to do is get us to use the same terminology in terms of talking about types of SBOMs, and hopefully any of the work that we come up with for these categorizations and work like Ivana's going after can start to use these SBOM types to help people understand what you're working with. So in terms of a readout, the ask is, I think we're trying to get this closed in the next week or so on the CISA side, and like I say, that Thursday meeting will probably see it closed. So just want to make sure people have a chance to put their eyes on it and put any concerns that they have in there and see if we can get it closed. And if you've got a concern, I'd encourage you to come to that Thursday meeting and make sure that it's addressed if it doesn't get addressed asynchronously here from your perspective. But then I think we can declare this as one of the things we wanted to get done is done.
Do we think this will be out in 2022, Kate, or will this definitely be 2023?
Well, I was told it was about a 2-week period. So I don't completely rule it out, but I will defer to the folks from CISA who are on this call to actually tell me how long their process is.
Well, wisely done.
Luckily, everything in the government happens super quickly. So our hope is, and we said last Thursday that we're hoping this will be a nice Christmas present for everyone. If it does not happen by the end of 2022, we certainly are optimistic it'd be out right at the beginning of in January. But it will. We don't meet this week for the tooling meeting just because it falls on the Thanksgiving holiday, but we do hope to finalize this perhaps the following week. If we have to go one more week, we will. And then there's about a 2-week, 14-day turnaround with getting it through. We have to make sure it's 508 compliant, all that kind of stuff to get it on the CISA website. But that lines up right around that last week in December. If it doesn't happen, then it should happen, first week of January. So.
Nice.
Quick question. I know early versions of this, there was a lot of discussion. I think some contention. Heck, I was part of that myself. But at least in the meetings that I've been attending, which were not absolutely all of them, I got the impression that early on, lots of debate, lots of discussions, productive, just different points of view. But it seems like everything has kind of coalesced into general acceptance from the places I've seen. Is that also what you're seeing, or is there still some important aspects of this that are being debated?
Every time a new person comes in, they try to basically take it to their understanding. And usually we can talk it through. And this seems to be coalescing at this point now. I'm not hearing too much. Like I say, one of the participants took and looked at it from a pre-production's point of view. And so you'll see that a sentence got added that the final build of an artifact being disclosed is also tagged as a production SBOM, which is, to help clarify for people who are working with certain regulatory agencies who've asked for a production SBOM, what is actually being meant. So these different perspectives as they come in are helping to influence the overall definitions, but the 6 basic types seem to be gelling, and the distinction between what's deployed and what's runtime seems to have been clarified. But part of this has been this exercise of trying to make sure we get everyone's views weighed in and make sure that they can live with these types of definitions. So I think we're close. I'm not encouraging people to widely diverge at this point in time, to put it mildly. But if you think we've missed something significant, this is the time to weigh in.
I do want to commend Kate and the other folks involved. I've been involved in, I don't know, probably less than half of the gatherings, but as I said, I think it was interesting to watch very, very different viewpoints coalesce, which does suggest the need for this.
And Justin, I have a procedural question just from kind of a government perspective. So SLSA is going to publish this list of definitions. And then what is the expectation like with NIST? Because I know NIST has been releasing some various guidance around SBOM. Do they refer to the SLSA guidance, or will they pull this in as part of their like lexicon of definitions and terms?
Great question. Our hope, we should say, is that our friends in Gaithersburg will pull this in. They will be aware of its existence, and we can lead the horse to water, right? And hopefully they'll drink. But we will do our best to help that government coordination is as good as it's our coordination with all of you have been. So hopefully that's a nice, satisfactory government answer for you.
Yeah,
it's a pretty normal one. I guess, has anybody in NIST so far been made aware of this up to this point? I guess maybe I should ask.
Yes. We had
Justin, we lost you. Can you repeat?
Our friends who are involved with the MBD. We were in an on-site meeting a couple weeks back, and we had short discussions about this efforts, because I actually sat in on this meeting it was a couple weeks back, and we were in Pensacola for that. So yes, they are aware of the effort. So it won't be it should not be something that they're not expecting to that is about to be posted and or published on our website and publicly available and all that.
Awesome.
Okay.
This is fantastic. I'm loving this.
Okay.
And the best part will be, I'm sure once SLSA publishes this, there will be no commentary on the definitions by anyone else, right?
Huh.
Right.
Like I say,
whatever.
we continue to evolve, but
Right.
at least hopefully this will at least deconflict a lot of people talking past each other, which is the goal.
Absolutely. And that's just exactly that. I love it. This is so cool.
The other thing, just to give you guys a quick update, is the tooling 2.3 and 2.2 of the Python tooling should all now be working. Refactoring is in progress, has started, and is working. Probably will be finishing off in the next couple weeks. So, but if anyone is wanting to use the Python tooling, now is a really good chance to go and see if you can work with it and let people know if there's any issues.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Thank you, Kate.
Sure.
Where's that available from then? Is it on the SPDX website?
What?
Where's the updated tooling?
It's on the GitHub site, spdx.
Okay.
Open tools under SPDX on GitHub.
Right.
Excellent. Just in time for 3.0, right?
No, we're working it. 3.0 we're working towards.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Oh, that's exciting. All right. I'm going to bring this document back up. I'll assume everyone has the link. So kind of to bring us back around where we started, we want to redefine the goals and purpose to be more focused on empowering external entities, be it through connections or funding or whatever. And so I want us to go through this for the next, what do we have? We have like 25 minutes-ish. And just, if anyone has comments, you can just add them straight to the doc. You can just jump in and say something in Zoom. I don't have a great way to do this. I know these kind of working sessions are always a bit rough sometimes over Zoom, but I feel like this is important. And I think it is an easy way to help gain some quick consensus versus asking everyone to kind of do it off on their own, because I know we're all very busy. So we'll start with the overview. I read this earlier and I don't have any huge comments on this overview. I think it's acceptable for the moment. I mean, we could nitpick it, but whatever. It's just saying the group exists, I think. And we can refine that in the future. If anyone has any comments, feel free to just jump in, but I want to kind of jump down to the scope and the mission, because I think those are the two that kind of matter for this conversation. So this is where we start here, and this goes back to what David was saying. So there's the adoption and the consumption of SBOM at all levels, and actually this source build deploy now we can refer to. This is a document which will exist soon, right? The goal of the F stream, identify methods and processes to leverage SBOM data across a broader. I mean, this is word salad. I don't know if this doesn't really mean anything. I'm just going to comment on that like, is that really part of the scope? I mean, not really. That's more of a mission. So let's ignore this for the moment. I'm just going to put it on strike through. Does anyone have any comments on like the scope, right? It says securing the open source ecosystem, which I don't think anyone will argue with that. Is it require making adoption consumption of SBOM data easy at all levels? Like that feels like the scope is the open source ecosystem. I don't think anyone, do we have art comments, questions? Does that make sense?
I'll be honest, I suspect we just want to secure the software ecosystem.
I would agree, actually, because I think there's a role for commercial and open source to interact here.
All right.
What?
I don't want to say it, but I agree with that.
All right.
Well, I shouldn't say commercial, because you can have commercial open source too, but
Right.
it's more proprietary technologies and open source technologies to interact.
Yeah, or open and closed.
Yeah. And I agree. I think it's also important for us to recognize that I don't think there's closed source anymore. Everyone's using open source. I mean, that's why we're even having these discussions.
Well, I would say there is closed source,
Well,
but once you open it up, there's a whole lot of open source inside. So we
That's
just
right.
need to secure software.
It's true.
Also, I believe we are going to start to be seeing SBOMs required from SaaS providers,
Yeah.
where, you know, even to use a SaaS service, customers like the government will demand to know what's behind it.
I agree. Oh, that is Brian. Hello, Brian. You snuck in.
Howdy.
Yeah. By the
mean-
way, can we? I'm not sure we need to say all levels. I would just delete all that. I'm going to
Yeah,
propose
I
striking that.
agree.
Just- all you want to do is make it easy.
Yeah.
If you'll notice the types, there's things like runtime. I think there's cases for some of these, but what we want to do is make consumption easy, period.
Yeah, I agree.
And production.
Yes. Well, oh, yeah. Well,
I would agree. Consumption
Yeah,
and
the production, comma, adoption and consumption.
Yeah, that's fair.
What about distribution?
Do we include that under adoption and consumption?
That was the sort of question. Yeah, does adoption include distribution?
You know what? We should add it just to help clarify, because I think, so one of the things that has become very apparent to me over the last couple of weeks, well, this comes up a lot, is we live in this world that other people don't. And so we take things like distribution for granted when we read consumption, that I think the non-supply chain nerds even grasp at this point. So I think we should be overly explicit when we describe this.
Can I propose adoption is a broader category? Just say production, distribution, consumption, and then talk about adoption as its own as its fine. Making the production, distribution, and consumption of SBOM easy to enable wide adoption.
Yeah, I agree. And we can talk about all that other stuff down in the approach.
Yeah.
And then
There we go.
where did we? I don't remember where we cut this off. All right. Yeah. I'm comfortable with that for the moment.
Okay. Always
no-
good to, as a group, first figure out what we're trying to do.
Exactly. Then we can wordsmith this stuff. I agree completely. Okay, so let's sit on that for the moment and let's look at the mission. So I think this is where it gets a little more fiddly.
Yeah, I think for consistency, we should have, again, producers, distributors, and consumers. I don't know what a maintainer is if they're not one of those.
So I think maintainer might be important in this document, David, because I think the purpose of maintainer is open, like the open source projects.
But aren't they producers or consumers or distributors?
Yes, but do we think of them? Well, okay, again, this comes back to the us versus the normal people. When we say producer, distributor, and consumer, we automatically think of there's open source developers, there's commercial open source, there's commercial entities. And I don't think maintainers is the right word, because the word maintainers is as meaningless to these other people as assuming they know producers also counts it. But I feel like we're looking to connect the dots between open source and commercial and users and like all of these groups, right? And that's, I think, what's going to be really hard to pin down with words.
Yeah, I again, but it sounds like you're actually making my case. I would kill the
Maybe.
maintainers there, because that's the goal is producers, distributors, consumers. Now, if you're talking about maintainers of an open source project, absolutely. But I think that's collaboration between everybody, and that includes enabling. I would guess this includes enabling open source software or helping open source software maintainers implement this.
You know what, David? I think you're right. I think we should leave it with producers, distributors, and consumers. And we don't even need to do it down there in that sentence, but we can define some of this more in depth elsewhere.
Okay.
Because the word producer can mean probably any one of 10 groups.
Right. And that's okay.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. I agree. I think it's fine.
Okay. So maybe actually what I just wrote in the mission is not the mission. That's the approach, or at least part of the approach.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm cool with that.
Remove the friction through open tooling, search the tool sets. And I think this is just part of the third bullet under approach.
Hey, Darcy, can you add your comment in the chat as a comment in the doc so it doesn't get lost? Because I think that's a really good point.
Totally.
Okay. So let's ignore the who for the moment. We can fiddle with that. We know what we want that to mean, right? So we have here identify common barriers to the. So do we want? Here's where I think we have to think about SBOM Everywhere. Do we want SBOM's Everywhere job to be identifying common barriers, or do we want to work with other groups that are maybe identifying the barriers?
I think the former, right? So somebody needs to step back and see where the barriers are. And each of the, working groups and so forth is focused on individual things. Is SBOM Everywhere an effort to, find the barriers and associate them with existing efforts?
Yeah, I think we should be actively searching to find them. Now, granted, in some cases it may be we talked to somebody else who actually did the identifying, and that's fine.
No. Okay.
But I think we need to be proactive. Sorry?
I think
No, sorry. I think this is true for everything actually related to this group. You know, we want to look for what's out there as much as possible and then fill in the gap ourselves if we have to.
No, we're
Right.
not gonna fill in the gap. Well, I guess.
Identify the-
how do you define that?
Yeah, identify the gap, you know, to your point earlier, you know, there is funding available to this group and put into it, if not do the work, but you know,
Exactly.
find the gap. Hopefully somebody else is already there working on it. We can help.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all right,
and if,
so-
but if not, we are going to fill the gap by identifying a proposal to fund the gap filling.
Right,
if
we'll
somebody
get to
hasn't
that
already
point.
done it.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so I want to keep us on focus here. So we are going to identify common barriers, but I don't know about production and consumption of SBOM data. Is that, I think it's more than just production and consumption. It's all SBOM, kind of everything.
Yeah.
Okay. The application of SBOMs, identify common barriers to the application of SBOMs.
Applications, I understand what you're trying to say, but I don't think application is the right word, but I'm comfortable
So-
putting
so
it in and changing it later.
Usage.
I was going to say usage.
Use cases.
Yeah.
Usage, okay.
I put a comment in, and I think it's disappeared, but it said, have we identified the use cases? And it needs to be use cases from the consumption side as well as from the generation side, because I think we can all see it from the generation side why it's a good, but have the consumers understood what they're going to do with it? Why do they need it? Is the information useful?
Something like
So-
this. I put some suggested text in. Is that kind of what you're looking at?
Yeah, that's fine. And we can wordsmith it later. I think we understand the intent. It'll be, okay, so someone just brought up the use cases. I don't know who was speaking when they said that. I believe, and Kate, you can correct me on this, but at least the NTIA started down this. I don't know if SLSA has picked it up yet, but I don't think this group should create the use cases. I think we need someone like SLSA doing that particular group. But again, that's, I think, where we can hopefully empower others to work on this. But okay, all right. Usage of SBOMs. Provide architectural, ooh, that's a big word. Okay, this is where I think it goes off the rails, and I think we just need to start over. I don't think we should save this text at all.
A landscape?
Well, is the landscape an architectural vision? I mean, when I read architectural vision, I think it's something really big and grandiose.
I
think you need don't you need the architecture things to be there looking at software architecture in implementation, which I can understand why, but have we not got an overall enterprise architecture of like the SBOM business model, or whatever you want to call it, how it all works, how all the different players contribute?
Yeah, I think this is my Eddie, right? You know, you know, I keep picturing, you know, you speak board and out, you know, from everybody involved, you know, and show where individual organizations and a consumer and I think that's sort of, I don't think anybody has whiteboarded out, you know, what all this looks like from all the component pieces.
Yeah.
you know what? Can we make this simpler? Just delete that and just say, and create or enhance. Because I don't actually want just an architecture. I want actual tools. Nobody cares about an architecture unless there's some implementations behind it.
Well, and I think even higher level than that, David, is, so we want to identify common barriers for the usage of SBOMs, and we want to we don't want to build the tools. We want to, how do we say this?
I think we do. I think we do want, I mean, not by ourselves. Typically, I would expect enhance.
I want to be very specific about this. I want to clarify that SBOM Everywhere is not going to build tools. We are going to fund
Foster.
tools.
Foster.
Okay, and
Foster is a good
fund.
word.
Foster. Okay.
'Cause-
Foster creation.
I would say not just foster, fund is a better word because that's way clearer.
So it's process. This is about process, isn't it?
And David, I wouldn't want to overemphasize the funding side of it, because there's some projects that might simply benefit from us highlighting their existence and advocating for others to join them, and finding, if people pop up and say, hey, I've got a few devs, we SBOMs are important. So I don't think fund should be the central verb.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, I think that, to your point, David, I think there's no point in implementing anything if you don't have an architecture. And it's chickens and eggs. But, in the topic where, SBOM everywhere, we should be able to answer the question about SBOM to anyone. Hey, I'm XYZ. What does this matter to me? And that's where I think whatever the word is, architecture, network diagram, you're looking at so many things we're talking about, not just in this group. But this definition, like Kate, shared, we have types of SBOMs, but they use producers and consumers. It's more than that. It's a lot more than that. But right now, everybody is just like, look, I'm producing or consuming. That's enough. I can't think about it any more than that. I think somebody needs to stand up, stand aside and say, all right, you're here. You're not producing or consuming as such, right? SOC operations, just anything. So, and again, there's a lot of silence when I talk about these things. So. Because either we're not there yet, or
I don't think we're there yet, Chris. I think this is a really hard problem, and I think you're speaking kind of truth to power when you say that we don't want to hear it sometimes.
I don't think it's that complicated, but it does take an effort, right? And I was thinking about this as we're talking about this. There's nobody to fund for it, but it takes an amount of cycles that we're just not putting to it yet.
But now I think the word foster encompasses that, because I think as we kind of nurture and foster the SBOM ecosystem in whatever way that is, be it funding or highlighting things or just making sure the right two people are talking at the conference or whatever, I think what you're describing will be the natural outcome of doing the right thing. Or at least I hope it is.
I think so.
All right, I'm going to write the word foster down because I really like it. I'm not in edit. Let's do suggest me what we do. All right,
one thing I'd like to bring up is I'd like to see if we can make sure we deconflict up front what the SLSA adoption group is working on as well. Or at least understand our relationship to that the same way we did a back and forth on the definitions.
I think they're in charge of adoption, Kate. I don't view this group as trying to do any. If someone else is doing anything, we connect them to the rest of the ecosystem. That's the way I see this. I don't think this group should do anything that anyone else is trying to do, but rather we exist to empower them.
But should it be looking at sort of some education? It might be to point it to SLSA or other resources, but is an education piece part of the mission?
I think it is. I don't know how. Yes, I guess the answer is yes.
It might be it points it to definitive sources, or if it finds there's gaps, it then facilitates filling those gaps by funding or creation.
I would agree. And I think this is like where the Linux Foundation is well suited. They have the ability to create like education materials and make it a self-sustaining enterprise. So I guess, okay, I'm gonna just write some things down now that aren't gonna stay. So like, for example, we always want to defer to other groups like the, Kate, what group did you just say for the adoption? Is it?
I think it's awareness and adoption. Awareness? I'll defer
on on-ramps and adoption.
Adoption, sorry, on-ramps and adoption.
Yeah, it actually meets in 10 minutes if you want to go. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Justin, it's right. It stops right on top of the SPDX meeting. So.
Oh man.
But please deconflict that in the new year.
It never fails. That's right. Anyway, but I think this is a really important point. Is our goal is not to try to do anything anyone else is doing. We want to like connect others. There's just too much to track in this space today. And I want to see this group. I've referred to it as the center of mass, where it's not like a center of gravity of everything, coming into it, but rather we're the thing where you know you can go to and figure out where to go next if you have an interest. And I think that's what's missing from all of this, because every day I learn about some new working group or project or something in the SBOM universe. And it's just, it's untrackable by humans at this point. All right, we've got like 3 minutes. I am very pleased with what we have gotten done today. I want to thank everyone. I guess here's the takeaway I think we should have. Is this obviously is going to need some wordsmithing, because we didn't use language that's going to be good. I don't know what to call it. That's ironic for the normal people. I think part of the intent of this audience is we have to speak to our own group as well as someone who might be coming in and saying, I just heard about SBOMs. What do I do? And I think if SBOM Everywhere is where they stop first, it would be very valuable to them. At least that's what I would like to see. And then, yeah, I guess wordsmith it, help identify some of these themes and ideas. I know this was assigned to Brandon. I'll talk to him later about what we've done to him. His document. He'll be fine, I promise. Okay. Does anyone else have any other comments? I think this has been great.
Maybe we can try to wrap this up in our next meeting, at least this doc, and then move once we've kind of gotten an agreement, move on to it.
I think you're being overly optimistic.
Probably, but
Brandon isn't here, but whatever, it needs to be done. So do as much async as possible, please, people.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
100%. All right. All right.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yes, thank you. Everyone have a lovely holiday if you're in the US, and don't have a lovely holiday if you're not. But all right, I will talk to you all in a couple weeks. So thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks.